This episode is brought to you by the European Co-working Assembly. We are everything Co-working Europe. If you head to the Co-working Assembly website, you can connect with our World Co-working, European Freelancers Week, Co-working Symposium, Co-working Library, and Co-working Tools.
Hello, folks, and welcome to another Co-working Values podcast. I'm really excited today because I have local London legend Karen in the studio today, and we're going to talk about local co-working. So, Karen, what are you known for, and what would you like to be known for?
I'm known probably as the CEO of Barking Enterprise Centre and 360 Workrooms. What would I like to be known for? I'd like to be known for the person who won the biggest ever amount on the Euro Millions. That would be quite nice. And I'd like to be, it sounds really, just to be thought of and valued as somebody who believes in the art of the possible for people. That would be it.
I think you're well on that track. You know, I hate to burst your bubble, but you know, most people that there's a thing called I think it's, the level, there's a level where lottery winners don't do well after they win the lottery. The upper limit. People reach their upper limit and then they self-destruct. Don't know if you've ever heard of that. So with the area, I could do that too. There's in the can you just describe Barking where you live? Because it's very near, folks. Where Barking is next door to Ilford, where I used to live in London. If you want to be cool, I could say to you, yeah, I lived in East London, and technically I did, but like Ilford and Barking are pretty hardcore, aren't they?
They are. So they border the Essex East London. Barking and Dagenham borders the Essex East London boundary. We have Essex postcodes, but most people would consider us to be East London. Barking and Dagenham is a fabulous place to live and work. Sadly, you know, it hits a lot of the indices for deprivation, you know, poverty, etc. People working really hard to try to change that. It predominantly was known as a manufacturing borough up until early 80s, and then like lots of those manufacturing, if you think of Sheffield and some of those northern towns, the Fords moving out decimated the area, and it took years and years for it to recover. And the sort of the new political leadership, which is nearly 8 years old now, saw it very differently and talked about inward investment into the borough. And so we've been on a journey, and we've now the Uber boat now stops in Barking from central London. We've got film studios currently under construction, the biggest film studios in the country there'll be. We've got regeneration happening everywhere. I look out the window every morning and I'm surrounded by cranes for new development and housing. I think the Barking and Dagenham has built the most housing in London than any other borough for about the last 4 or 5 years, and you know, commits to some of that being social housing. So they're still building family homes for people that need them. I could go on. But it's got UCL Pearl here, which is a massive scientific experiment for coming out of university. Well, UCL in a university, and they can do fantastic experiments in this massive building around people's perceptions of smells, and you know, they can build whole high streets and do amazing tests on footfall and what sounds people respond to, what smells people respond to. So it's a pretty cool place to live.
It is. It is. You know, I've known it. I was drinking in the Barking Dog in like 1997, and it is what I would respectfully call a tough area. But I feel, and I've got to know it more and more over the last decade, and I feel it's somewhere where there's, from the local government, there's this like commitment to evolving it, like you just described, but they're able to look at other areas of London that have just been gentrified by someone like flicking a switch. And I always sense, and you can correct me if I'm wrong here, there's this strong commitment to, you know, upgrade the area without losing, the soul and respecting the people that are, long-time residents of that area. Is that accurate to say?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's a mix of both. I mean, definitely gentrification is coming. The new developments, some of the flats are 360 workrooms, that the apartments above that are $500,000 each to buy. So, but I think it's about, so the borough has a kind of a motto and a thing and a theory and values and it's very short. It's just no one left behind. And I think anybody who works in Barking and Dagenham, whether they work in the public sector, whether they're like me, run a social enterprise, and across that, the community that the voluntary sector community that I have a lot to do with, everybody absolutely, believes in that value that no one should be left behind.
So I always think of you and your little piece of the universe as in, local co-working is it's always been a thing, but it's got like super trendy now. Everyone wants a local co-working space, and I think the way you've evolved Beck and then 360 Workrooms, which is just next door, is it's like it was like doing that genuine local co-working before it was cool to do that genuine local co-working. And can you describe like Beck and how it's evolved into the 360 thing, and also because it's not any artist studios and stuff, but there's a load of stuff going on there that's been going on for a very long time.
Yeah, well, I mean, the Beck in its prior existence was built in 2011. And if you've been around London for a while, you'll know that there were pots of money around the called London Economic Growth Initiative, and that's what funded the building of the Beck. And it was just to be an enterprise centre. But back in 2015, early 2016, we kind of looked at the model and said, what could we do to make this A standalone business, and B, what's missing from the offer that other than workspace, and that's when we built the model around a complete wraparound support package of mentoring and training and business to business connections. And 360 came around because we know that creative industries locally are a big thing, with the film studios coming, and we've got an artist quarter in Barking Town Centre now. And so we've formed a little collective in one of our business of arts professionals and supported them on their journey to becoming kind of, well, obviously they're always artists, but turning that artist thing into a business is quite a challenge for freelance artists. So we'd built this collective back in 2013, 2014. And then we thought, actually, let's find them a space. So they occupy the first floor of one of our buildings. We've got a couple of filmmakers, an event company, a photographer, and they're part of that little collective. And they run the studio that we've got over in Beck 2, our other space. And then when this sort of plopped on the map saying that they were looking for something to do with the creative unit of this, we call it, while it was under construction, it was known as 360, the development, because of the flats around. But they now call it Oculus House. So we stole the name 360 Workrooms, and we've just kept with that. And we wanted to really offer creative businesses, young creatives, an affordable space. And I think that's what we've managed to do. Membership of 360 Workrooms is £99 a month. So it's very affordable. And even if you're not living in Barking and Dagenham, but you've got to get, the tube a couple of stops, even if that costs you £15 a week on the train, that's still only £160 rather than central London. And I won't name the ones, but we know what we're talking about, the £550s and the £600 for for you to use in a co-working space.
That is nuts. So that's something, another riff of yours is, why people travel. And when I still lived in Ilford, I eventually found Workhive in Ilford, and just being able to walk. It's the first time in years that I've been able to walk to my co-working space and then go into town when I needed it. And that, I mean, maybe that's not for everybody, but I think it should be. But what give your opinion on why people travel into town still?
I think people get a bit hung up on the prestige of their EC1 business address and stuff, and I think if we could find the answer to this, bottle and sell it, we'd both be mega millionaires. I don't know the secret to marketing local co-working spaces. We're still working on that. Because I just don't think people either A, know about it, B, know what it does, or C, have this whole thing that it's not for them, because it's not in a prestigious, it's a fabulous building, but it's not in a prestigious location. That's my theory on it. I could be completely wrong, but that's my theory on it. And I think sometimes people do things out of habit, don't they? They get up, they get ready, they go to work, they get on the train, they go to central London, and that's quite a big habit to change. I mean, I've worked locally now for over 20 years. The days when I have to go into London, one of your events is one of them, the co-working breakfast. I moan constantly about having to get up earlier, having to get on the train. They're full again, the trains now. I just couldn't do that commute every day. But I think we get a bit like lab rats, and that's what people are used to doing.
There's a riff, and this is for the we've all drunk our own Kool-Aid, or whatever you're supposed to say. For years I've been connected to a lot of people that have worked remotely, and I've done stuff in London. I have worked online with a group of people non-stop since 2008. And now there's COVID kind of unlocked. It gave loads of people permission to say, because people were forced into a position where they had to work from home or they had to work remotely. In more traditional command and control employers just had to relinquish that. And I know some of them have gone back to it, but there's all these people here in Spain who are in villages in Spain and Portugal and sat out in the sun doing their work on a laptop and not missing that commute at all. It is a bit insane for the environment and for our well-being and for the amount of work you get done. And then women really don't come off very well in that you have to go into the office set up either.
Yeah, I think the other thing is as well is, I mean, whether that's the same like cost of living crisis wise and whatever, I think the thing is about some of the central London venues is they're surrounded by, really nice shops. And, if you want to pop to Next or you want to pop to Waitrose or Marks and Spencer's Simply Food, all of those things a central London offers. A local co-working, you might have a Sainsbury's local or a Tesco's local, but we don't have the sort of the attractive, Barking and Dagenham is getting there, but it's going to be another 5 or 6 years before we're filled with bars and restaurants in reality. And I think, is it that people are looking for that kind of 15-minute city whole culture, which, in small co-working spaces like our one, you haven't got that infrastructure around you. Great news, we've got a Costa and a Starbucks now. I would rather people supported the independent cafes, of which there are hundreds locally. But I think it's people get hung up on the, I need to go to Pret a Manger and get my sandwich in my fancy London co-working address. Whether cost of living has changed that for people, I'm not sure. I see far more people with packed lunches on trains now than I ever used to.
Definitely. There was a friend of ours in 2018, I think it was. It was either for a master's or a PhD. She's an architect, and Irene, she was based in a central London co-working space, which I'm not going to name, and she did a year-long research project to see how much that co-working space contributed to the local economy and economic footprint and stuff like that. And people would come into that, get off at the station nearby, go to Pret or Starbucks and buy their thing, buy their food, and then go into the co-working space. And even though the area around it was full of independent, a lot of ethnic, I'm trying not to say the area, a lot of ethnically available food was there. But they would just buy, branded high street recognizable retail stuff and then take it in. So the interaction between, and that was from a year-long survey, and she interviewed at least half of the people that lived there and interviewed people in the local area and stuff. What was the other thing we were going to talk about was myth busting and what is co-working. Can you say a bit more about that?
Yeah, I think people, if you've never been in a co-working space, and I know it's your bread and butter, and it's becoming, and it has been for the last, however many years, but and it is for me for the last, we've always had a little bit of co-working. Now we've got much more than we had before. I think people feel that there's no privacy in a co-working space, and that they won't be able to get on with their work, or that, there'll be somebody noisy on the phone, or somebody's listening in or looking at what they're doing. And that's not my experience at all. I've seen from co-working fabulous connections come out where, people barter time and skills amongst very small businesses. But I think there is a thing about that there's a lack of privacy. And yeah, it's a hard one, and that it's, that it's not for them. I think it's don't knock it till you try it kind of thing. So, we're currently doing these walk-in Wednesdays, which are going down really well. And we've now got people in the apartments above us who are now so fed up of working from home for the last 3 or 4 years through COVID, etc., who are now coming down to work from a co-working space, and all they have to do, to be honest, is just come down the stairs or the lift, and they're finding that quite a new concept. But I think for me as well, I remember having a conversation with you when at the very start, and I came to one of your co-working breakfasts, and I felt like the oldest swinger in town. It was the operators were there, were very young and kind of trendy, and I remember thinking, hang on a minute, I'm not here for that. This isn't a fashion parade or who's the youngest. This is actually about the future of co-working and how we build and support each other as a community. But I do think co-working, there's an age barrier around co-working locally, that some of our older people that are running spaces that would value the use of a co-working think that it's going to be full of, young, trendy people, and it doesn't fit their vibe, or that they won't fit in. That's what
that's really accurate, because I all the time have conversations with space owners that, and some of them have been on this podcast, who were like, I didn't think I was, I'd be devastated that we gave off this vibe, is that, I didn't think I was cool enough to come. I thought it was only for big spaces. And then, I make people go to like co-working Spain conference. I made Christina, who runs Spento co-working here, go to that. And she's like, but I thought it was for like Uber success. No, it's just like, and then she was in a room at the co-working academy run by Mark Navarro with 16 other, space owners like her. And they were like, oh, I thought, are you that too? And Stacey, who runs Tribe Co-working, who I've just been in awe of for years. It's like, I didn't think this was for the, little people like me. It's like, actually, most of it is little people. And it's like, I think, the flexible co-working space industry is a bit like coffee shops. Everyone thinks that, everyone thinks that hospitality is like Starbucks and Hilton, and actually, and a chunk of it is. But if you added up all the independent coffee shops and boutique hotels in the world, they would outnumber Hilton and Starbucks. And for me, the fun is always in that, you know, I'd rather, I mean, and then we have to be conscious of price, and there's a cost of living crisis. So don't want to sound flippant, but I'd rather pay, £1.50 for an espresso to, this is showing my Spanish prices now, £1.50 for an espresso to Jack in Blend 97 in Gants Hill that's made by him and owned by him than I would go to Starbucks. And I'm not sure whether it would be cheaper or more expensive, but, give my money to Starbucks.
Yeah, I mean, we have quite a circular economy here. So we ran a program with the local authority just after COVID, which we called the Retail Hospitality Recovery Funds, which was supporting, does what it says on the tin, really. The retail and hospitality industry locally had been decimated by COVID. They'd had a few grants, but they were on the cusp of survival, some of these businesses. And we worked with a local bakery called Richie's Bakery, which is in kind of a nice area. It's on the edge of the Leffley estate over Barking Park, but we're really struggling post-COVID with their business. So we put a mentor in, we got them a grant out and stuff. And they now, the Wolf, the film studios in Barking are already open. It's called The Wolf, and they've got the contract over there to run the cafe for the film studios over there. And now they do all of our catering as well, because they've now got bigger kitchens. When I need buffets and, I needed for an event that we were hosting here for a client, I needed 4 vegan platters of sandwiches. Yeah, just no problem. Whatever you want, whatever you need, we'll supply that. And I think that's how businesses tend to grow, by using that local co-working. I hate to go to events where the food's been is provided. The sandwiches are provided by that famous underground passage company, which is not a local kind of provision, really.
What can you say a bit about because how the restaurants survived in COVID and the support that Beck gave in that Barking area, because that is a raw local COVID story.
Yeah, so we took a decision alongside the local authority to use all local authorities were given an assisted resource grant, and basically it was given by central government to local authorities for them to sort out local needs. And so what we did was we funded business mentoring. The Beck paid for the business mentoring side of things, but the council gave us about $250,000 out of their ARG money for us to do retail recovery plans. So because COVID had caught some of them off on the back foot, lots of the restaurants, local restaurants and hospitality, they didn't have digital, they didn't have websites, they weren't signed up to Uber Eats or Deliveroo or, any of those things. They didn't really understand e-commerce. So a lot of it went on supporting them with that. And then obviously, where business had been so tough for a few years, some of them, the equipment wasn't doing great, and they could serve more customers if they redesigned the front counter, because people don't want to be as close as they used to be. No one wants to queue in a coffee shop when you're nose to tail with somebody anymore. So we did that. I think we gave grants to about 85 businesses locally, which was great, and supported them with their recovery. And I don't think any of them have gone under. They've just gone from strength to strength, which is great. And unlike other local authorities, we had 0 fraudulent claims on any of our businesses who got support through COVID. Others got their grants out really quickly, and then have subsequently found out that half of those businesses didn't exist, whereas we went and did premises visits and checked everybody out and things. So yeah, it was a good program and it worked.
I I know those. I haven't been to them all, but I know those that high street that you're talking about. I think I always think that would have, imagine being one of those businesses and suddenly everything gets taken away because the footfall disappears, and then you discover the internet and how much fun that must be to open up to a whole new market that you didn't really know how, because there's bits of the internet I don't understand how to use, and then suddenly someone explains it to me and like, oh my god, didn't know this was here.
Just being able to well, I mean, for the food businesses, if we always talk about pre-COVID, but obviously in COVID many of them were forced to close because of government restrictions and didn't have a choice. And those that could do stuff online were doing stuff online. But most of the businesses, I would say 80%, got caught out by not being signed up with an app for people to order food, and had left it too late. So, we'll make sure that, not that we want COVID back again, but we'll make sure that that's never going to be their story again. They are all completely digitally visible as well as high street visible.
So, just before we go, can you just explain how easy it is to get to 360 workrooms from Barking Station? Because do I need a cab or a bus, Karen, or how do I get there?
So you come out of Barking Station. Barking is served by so many lines now. It's got the Hammersmith and City. It's got the C2C. It's got the District line. It's got the Gospel Oak line. You come out of the station, you turn right, you walk 1 minute, and then you turn into Cambridge Road, and then you walk for another 2.5 minutes. And that's if you walk at my pace with heels on. If you've got trainers on and you're a quicker walker, you can do it in 1.5 minutes from Barking Station. And now if you wanted to come from central London, you can come down on the boat to Barking Riverside, and it's one stop from Barking Riverside to Barking Station, and then you're talking 3.5 minutes from the station at a very slow.
Gorgeous. Any final thought you'd like to leave us with? And we can put links to all the Beck and 360 workrooms and everything in the show notes, but anything you'd like to say?
So I just want to clear up that I never felt unwelcome. I was never, it didn't come across that way. In fact, probably that co-working community I had never felt so embraced and welcomed like I did there. It was just me getting over myself as a person of a certain age, thinking, oh my God, this is not for me. But I think it's for those that are thinking about either opening a space or a sort of, nudging around the peripheries but not wanting to get involved, then you absolutely should, because I did an event a couple of weeks ago with you guys, and since then I've been speaking to somebody from Tower Hamlets Council about a couple of opportunities that may be coming up. So I think you just have to embrace it, but I've always felt very welcome, and of course if people want to come and see 360, we do walk-in Wednesdays, so anyone can work there any Wednesday on us and see if they like the space and hopefully join us.
Hey, thanks very much, Karen. I love and adore your style and energy, and I'm really grateful that you got in here and become part of our community. So, folks, if you go to European coworkingassembly.eu, there's our email, and every week we email about events that are going on, like co-working in Germany. Berlin Co-working Festival is coming up after the summer. There's co-work in Spain, and I'm sure there's a lot of people I've forgot to. And every month in London, we do which is what Karen's been talking about, the London Co-working Assembly Breakfast Show. And our big thing is in Amsterdam can't remember the date, I think it's the second week of October. We will be at the Workspace Design Show in Netherlands. We did that in London with Charlie and Isha in February, and then we'll be back in, we haven't gone there yet, and saying be back. We'll be in the Netherlands in Amsterdam doing a big thing there, which I'm really, really looking forward to. So thanks for your time and attention. So again, Karen, I'm all up for encouraging you. Thanks very much, folks. Be careful out there. It is a jungle. Say goodbye, Karen.
Bye. Thank you. Bye.